Alright, hello there. This is Vizsla. I'm here doing a solo episode because there was a bit of an issue with attendance. I'm gonna keep this one relatively short, probably 15-20 minutes is when I'll try wrapping it up. Right here I have paint.net in case when I draw anything to like demonstrate. Don't know if I will use it, but just in case. Anyway, it's kind of regrettable that it's not in a group to talk about this because this was like I've been on a kick with this lately. Morals and ethics, and it is sent me down this kind of like rabbit hole, but in a good way. You know what I mean? Like it's incredibly interesting. First thing to say about morals and ethics is it there is no right answer. You know what I mean? If you look at like this branch versus that branch versus this branch versus that branch, every single one of them is gonna have some element to it that's different. And because like going from one to two, there's something different, and two to three, there's something else different. You get this huge mix and match situation. And so the goal or the point, at least to me, of morals and ethics isn't necessarily to decide whether people are right or people are wrong. Even though it's funny to meme around, being like, "Oh, you're being immoral right now." And that's been a joke going around lately in the community. But yeah, that's not the point, right? The point is, it's also not to justify your own actions, right? It's not meant to be like, oh, I did this in the past. According to my moral philosophy, that was okay. If you ever need to go out of your way to justify something, for 99% of people, 99% of the time, you're probably just reaching for straws there to make it seem all right. Um, but no, see, the point of it to me is you figure out what it is that you think is right, what is good, all that, and how you determine that, right? Like you pick your moral philosophy. It's like religion, except you really can just mix and match, and it will be perfectly fine. And what you do with that is it gets you to think more consciously about what it is you're doing, what it is you're saying. So it's like it's basically like this doctrine, maybe not something so rigid, but it's essentially like a way to program in your head, you know what I mean? So it's like when you go to do something, you think a little bit harder about it. And it's like, yo, is this actually what's up? You know what I mean? And if not, you just leave it alone. So like the other day, somebody says something, and you're about to fucking just roast the shit out of them, right? But here's the thing: what does that do? You know what I mean? What does that do besides make the other person upset and start escalating? You know what I mean? So there's a fine line to be had here about the amount of self-respect you have and the amount of like and the fragility of your ego. But if somebody says something and it makes you mad, sit down and think about why before just jumping in and fucking going at their throat. And if what they are saying is, unfounded, go about it. Don't fucking lash out, you know what I mean? Because then it makes you look weak. It makes you look like you're in the wrong. You gotta like explain it to them. And if they don't understand it, you gotta think that that's on them, right? If they are not willing to, let go, to compromise, whatever, then attacking them does nothing, right? And I know Nick the other day he said something about ego is like an evolutionary leftover of he didn't say it like this, but it was something like this where it's like ego is a remnant of like a defense mechanism or something like that. To a degree, I can agree with that to a degree, but not always. But the point is, as far as that goes, it's definitely the case when you see something get like heated because people feel, like slighted or offended or something. They feel the need to defend themselves. And I feel like a lot of the times the reason it, strikes a nerve is because there's some element of truth to that the person doesn't want to admit to, you know what I mean? But here's the thing, right? And this is, I guess, the line of self-respect and stuff. If somebody says something, like I said, that is unfounded, then it doesn't matter, right? If like you can sit down and try to like rationally like be like, yo, okay, no, this is how it is. And if they don't get it beyond that, I mean, lashing out at them is not going to solve anything. Like I said, it just makes you look bad. You know what I mean? And not only does it not only about the external appearance thing, but it also you lashing out means you are unable to like sit down and actually think it through, you know what I mean? And so morals and ethics to me spirals into this like series of different things that aren't necessarily like exclusive to morals and ethics, but like again, at least for me, I don't know other people's experience with it, but going down the rabbit hole, you pick up on like extra things, like not just about the self, but like if you can, it helps you better empathize too, because if you look at somebody else, you think, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? You know what I'm saying? So somebody says something and somebody gets pissed off. I mean, the obvious thing is like, oh, he's just mad at what he said. But like if you think a little bit deeper, you can, pick and pry at it a little bit. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, on the topic of, you know, ego and stuff, I guess, because it kind of bled into that a little bit. Pride and vanity. And I just thought of this a few seconds ago to like bring it up because of I posted in the quotes channel some random thing of a fandom user, like how it said, like that's their equivalent of anonymous or whatever. Somebody had a quote, and I'm gonna read it. This was on a ReZero page, which I was looking at with Elijah because he's like really into that. Let me find it real quick. Let's just pretend I didn't get lost in my own. Definitely didn't happen. Oh, I forgot to move to the archive. That's why. Pride and vanity isn't the same thing. Pride is an over-conflated view of yourself. Vanity is wanting others to have an over-conflated view of you, a minor distraction. Distraction? I think he meant to put distinction, but an important one. A fandom user, He remains anonymous. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that because my first delve kind of into philosophy was like trying to build one for myself. Kind of in the same way that I'm looking at morals and ethics, but it was a little bit like beyond just that. And like in excessive pride, like it's different to take pride. Like if you do good, it's perfectly fine, and usually it's a good thing to be like, yo, I did good. It gets you, as long as you don't overdo it. You know what I mean? As long as it's not undeserved pride, and as long as it's not pride that's overshot. You know what I mean? So like if you do something good, you're like, yeah, that's great, but you can't like get ahead of yourself and be like, yeah, dude, I can fucking do everything now. You know what I mean? That's I think it's Dunning-Kruger effect or something. Uh, whereas vanity is not like that kind of pride is bad, right? But in my opinion, the same thing can be said about vanity. There's a good form and a bad form. The bad form is what like everybody thinks of when they think of vanity, right? Where it's like, well, exactly like I just said, you want everybody to think so highly of you that you sacrifice, like you behave completely differently, stuff like that. However, the good side of vanity is the one. It's actually like I didn't realize this until I read it, but it's actually kind of like a core thing of the original philosophy I was working on. In that, well, maybe not so much of a core thing, but like it's weird to explain without going into it. But essentially, everybody, I think we talked about this a little bit, or at least I was getting on a solo episode and I was about to say this, but I didn't actually post a solo episode where everybody is an idea. We talked about the perception versus reality thing where everything that like I'm not denying an objective reality, but we ourselves, how we think, how we understand, that's all we perceive, and then we process that shit, right? So, because of that, every single individual does not exist, quote unquote. You know what I mean? Because, how do I put this? So, like, because, say there's a person over there, right? You perceive that person, right? And you essentially what that person is to you is, formulated in your head based on the knowledge you have about them, based on your opinions, your thoughts about everything else. You know what I mean? So you formulate one concept of what that person is, and then another person does the same exact. So like one person is not the same to person one as it is to person two, as it is to person three. You know what I mean? So there's no one ever really, you know what I'm saying? Like basically you yourself to others don't necessarily exist, only the idea of you does. And because of that, the philosophy, let me try to give it like a just quick rundown. Essentially, step one, you you improve yourself to wherever you need to be. You improve yourself because you can't conquer the world until you've conquered yourself. The goal is to improve yourself to become this like, paragon of not righteousness because that makes it sound like religious or something, but you just become like this sort of like exemplar of what like just a great fantastic human is to be. Think, you're intelligent, all that. You're conscious about what you do. You're determined and focused, ambitious, but you're not like a lot of those things seem like something that an arrogant person have, but you're not. You're like a teacher, a guide. You set the example for other people. So, if somebody needs help, you're not out here, flexing your superiority. Here's this thing, and here's the difference between the good vanity and the bad vanity. The bad vanity is something where you are throwing yourself to the mercy of everyone else, trying to get them to, think so highly of you. Whereas the good version of it is more of like a byproduct. You don't specifically seek to be made out to be this, ideal person, but by shaping yourself up and behaving and acting in a certain way, somebody needs, like I said, you're not out here flexing, oh, I know everything, I know everything. I joke about that sometimes, but obviously I'm not like literally trying to be serious. There's a fucking ton of shit I don't know. Um, but somebody needs help, you go down and you help him, you explain it. You're not like, oh, this was fucking easy, dude. What are you retarded? You couldn't figure this out. See, that's like a shitter thing to do, right? If you behave in the right way and you have the ability, the capacity, all that to do these things right, that sort of ideal view of you is a natural occurrence. And the reason it's a good vanity isn't because it's a vanity you're meant to chase, but when that happens, it's usually a sign that you are on the right track. You know what I'm saying? Because people think highly of you, uh, probably to the point where it gets a little bit, overblown. And I don't mean to make it sound like I'm fucking insane with this shit, like I'm just so perfect. But an example would be like, and this is like not meant to be an expression of the whole character. Obviously, this is just one single instance, but it's an example. This is where it can turn into the bad vanity, right? Like this is be an example. The other day, well, let me put it this way: not a bad vanity as in I was. Actually, I don't know. I guess it would be chasing it, but essentially, I'm not gonna go into specifics. But somebody said something when I did something, and it made me feel like, oh, that's great, but like, and to me, I was like, I felt like everything I did after that, like, cause it was like a series of like hype ups where it was like, one day, then a few days later, then a few days after that, and it was like how I'm like kick ass, you know what I mean? Not exactly that way, but and the problem is that trying to like live up to what I thought, what I like believed that, image that was painted of me in their head to be, I always felt like I had to live up to that, you know what I mean? And I don't mean to make it sound so grandiose, like obviously it's just, it's just a person in a Discord server, but like I don't know, I felt so like I had to live up to that, you know what I mean? Like I was worried that I was gonna like trip up and make it like ruin that image, you know what I mean? And I guess that's, I don't know, but it's again, if you behave the way you're supposed to behave and you act the way you're supposed to act, you do what you're supposed to be able to do or supposed to do, and you are able to do it, this will be just a natural occurrence. Um, how long has this been going on? It's going on 13 minutes, not too bad. All right. Uh, kind of on that line, I guess, just to give a little bit something else. I've been a little, I don't know, I haven't really had any notes here besides morals and ethics and pride and vanity, so this isn't, as grand as an episode as I thought it'd be. Uh, I'm a little bit jumbled right now because this is kind of impromptu. There's a lot more I would want to say on these topics, but when I was originally like before the group podcast and I was doing solo ones that I was going to upload, they went from an hour to 2 hours long, and I don't think anybody wants to, have to deal with that on like the morning drive. But ambition and envy. Again, I don't think I've talked about this in the group one, but I have in one of the solos. Uh, the difference here is kind of fine as well. Like this is one of the things where there's like a thin line of difference. And essentially, actually, no, I might have talked about this. I'm not sure, but this ties into the whole pride, vanity, ego thing. Where, and let me refrain from saying that part. Let me think of another way to put this. Say we'll flip this around. Say somebody else, they I don't know, they have something or they behave in some way or they just whatever, right? You seeking to emulate that person, that's more in the realm of envy, and it works for motivation, I guess, but it's like you're basically always going to live in their shadow. If all you're doing is attempting to be like this other person, you're forever going to be in their shadow. And I don't want to like get ahead of myself and say that this situation exists, even though in a lot of cases and turns and twists it does seem to be that way. But again, it's not like I can read minds, so I'm not going to go into that. But that that is problematic, right? What ambition is you deciding like you alone by no fucking factor of somebody else, you want something, you know what I'm saying? You want to create something new, something unique. You want to make a name for yourself. You want to do it, whatever. It can be as selfless or as selfish as you want, but it's not. It's your dream. You know what I mean? It's not you coattailing off of another's. You know what I mean? And I didn't really go as much into that as I thought I would, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm a little out of it right now. Like I'm kind of hyped up to talk, but like at the same time, I'm like so constrained by time that it's on the back of my head. You know what? Actually, something else I want to talk about real quick. We can talk about this. Is see for me the podcast. The reason I'm gonna mention this real quick. I believe the first episode was better than the second. I'm not disappointed in the second episode. I am just saying I believe the first one was better than the second one. And I think the problem or the reason, and this is not me saying I'm the reason for the first one being good. I'm saying I'm the reason for the first one being less good than the first one. Is in the first one, it was exactly how I'd imagined it to be. Because like we as a group, we would like sometimes just bust into like these huge like topic debate things, and that's to me the podcast was simply meant to be a recording of that. Right? We weren't talking about this shit to record. We were just recording the shit we was already. You know what I mean? And in the first episode, in my mind, that was perfectly okay. But then come the second one, it was like kind of in the back of my head. You know what I mean? Like, cause I in the first episode, I probably did it too, where I monologued a little bit. Cause I love monologuing, right? It's not like I'm unable to communicate in a group, but in the podcast, it feels like you kind of have to force, not so much force people to talk, but you have to like forcibly give room for other people to talk, so it comes out to be less natural, right? And that's what was kind of throwing me off because I was going on a monologue, but I was like, oh wait, if I take up so much time, nobody else is gonna get a chance to talk, blah blah blah. This is a group podcast, so I've got to give them their time. And combined with the fact that we were all tired, that's definitely another reason. But and see, here's the ironic thing, right? I don't actually. Let me put it this way. It's not that I don't care, right? Like, period. Obviously, it'd be cool if it picked up, it took off, whatever. But I'm not like obsessed with this thing becoming huge. You know what I mean? Because like I said, to me this is just recording something we already do. It's not doing what we do to record it. And so I think it's weird that I was the one caught up with that because after the first episode we talked about like Dan and Jake were talking about all type of stuff you could do to like boost its popularity, stuff like that. And to me, it's just whatever. I just have fun doing it. I think Elijah's the same as me. I'm not sure though, but I don't think he cares too much about like you know. And speaking of that, another thing I did the other day, and the reason I'm limiting this to 15 to 20 minutes, or at least trying to, is I was looking at the analytics and I saw like the retention rate on the video. And obviously, if you have a 2 hour video or an hour or so video, you're not gonna have a good retention rate, especially when it's just a podcast of nobodies. Um, but I was looking at that, and it got me thinking. I'm like, what can we do to optimize that? You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if it's because deep down I do want it to like pick up, in a way I do. Like again, I think it'd be cool because I like talking. If I could, speak to a whole bunch of people, dude, I would fucking love that shit. Um, but I didn't imagine myself, like fiending over it. And I guess I really haven't. It was more just like for 10 minutes on a day I looked at it, it's like, oh, okay. But but yeah, kind of fell off the train of thought there. But yeah, it's about 20 minutes. This is okay, see, here's the thing. When I'm talking about this shit, I'm either typing it out to where it's all like, nice and neat, or I'm speaking it. And if I speak it, I feel like there's constantly stuff I'm missing, and I can tell you for certain, with only these 20 minutes or so, I did not get into anywhere near the depth that I would have wanted to, which maybe is a good thing. You know what I mean? Because that leaves it still open to talk about in a group episode. Like we can review this one and talk about what I said. Because that's one of the big things about speaking in a group. You know what? This is gonna keep going. Is because everybody has like okay, let me put it this way. In your head, you have an idea that thing is an entire ball of yarn. The advantage of a group is that when you're trying to express that ball of yarn, you cannot put out that entire ball of yarn. Yeah, right. You can't do it in a concise manner. And because of that, even if you did have a 10 million word fucking thing and put that entire ball of yarn out there, it's open to interpretation and people are going to take it different ways, right? So you're only ever sending strings of that yarn out, but the advantage of the group is that because this yarn is the one that's visible to everybody, not just you, people are able to add their own strings onto that, and that'll either make you think like, oh, I forgot to mention this. Let me clarify, or oh, you're right, that is a weakness in my mindset. Let me patch that up. You know what I'm saying? So gradually, you have this idea that's built and built and built with all these layers of string, and everyone that's involved, everyone that's observing, you can look at that huge ball, and it's not tangled up anymore. Like it's like a series of strings, and you can look at that and you can be like, oh, you know what, I agree with this, or oh, I disagree with this. Let me, say what my thoughts are, or hey, this improves what I already think. I can add that to my collection of information. It's beneficial because you get numerous perspectives, and it also helps enhance your own uh, idea. Maybe not necessarily. It doesn't have to be literally enhance the idea in your head, but of what you put out there, it can enhance it because you're uh, spurred on, you're encouraged, what's the word I'm looking for? You're incentivized to, you know, add on what you forgot to clarify, or you know what I mean? So it allows you to put forth a more complete picture. And I think that is, that's definitely the important thing about a group. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know if that was the entire point I was trying to make, or I just went down a rabbit hole because I forget what I was about to talk about if I was about to talk about something else. Honestly, I have no idea. Um, Shit. Can I fit in any quick topics real quick? Um, I don't know. I guess we didn't end up using the paint, so whatever. But yeah, maybe we can get more into morals and ethics in the group thing. I feel like the pride and vanity thing. That's kind of enough. Like it doesn't really have to go much deeper than that. That's just kind of like a quick overview, because it's hard to go much deeper into what I was trying to say without going deeper into everything else. And again, this is supposed to be half an hour tops, not a fucking 40-hour one. Same with ambition versus envy. That was just a quick little thing. That was kind of tied up and related. Um, yeah, I don't know. See, here's the thing. I don't know if anybody's besides the people who are already part of the podcast or who watch it, like Dan and John. Anybody out there who doesn't know us that watches this, uh, I doubt you watch the entire uh collective podcast. If you do, props to you. But I'm just being realistic here. But it would be helpful, and well, let me back up and not say what you can do for us. Let me just let me start with this is not just us spitting the shit, or taking the piss. Spitting the shit, taking the piss, right? This is it's also meant to be for the observer, the viewer, you, to look at and think about. It's not like we're just saying words. I mean, we are, but obviously that's not what I mean. uh but yeah, get you thinking, and you can put in the comments or something, or join the Discord and talk about this shit, and keep the discussion going, because I think, to me, that's the cool part about it. If it got big, would not be because of fame alone, or money or whatever. It would just be the idea that there's this community out here that we can just talk to each other. You know what I mean? We're just regular fucking people. We're not fucking 200 million net worth celebrity, because I don't know. I don't mean to put down, their things, but when it comes to that, or like 30 PhD like philosophers. I feel like it gets to the point where it's there's kind of like a disconnect, you know what I mean, between the normal everyday people, and that's to me that's what I like. I don't want to try to be some like haughty ass motherfucker, you know what I mean? I just want to talk about these ideas. And a lot of the times, I'm going to be honest, it's more like I want to talk at people with these ideas, but nevertheless. And I want it to be something where everybody can learn from, where everybody can understand. Like, I want to be like a teacher in a way, I guess. I don't know. It's weird to explain, but I guess it's good enough for what I mean. So, yeah, you know what? 25 minutes is good enough. So we will drop, hopefully, assuming everybody's good, we will drop a collective podcast episode this coming, week. Even though we weren't able to hit up this week, that's already passed. So yeah, if we don't like, if there's any ever time we miss something, I guess I'll just do a solo one or pick up whoever I can. Cause I know Dan said he'd be down for something, but I there's no one in the house right now, so I figured this would be a good time for it. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. I guess that's it. Hopefully, I got enough of a point across. Hopefully, it gets you thinking a little bit. Hopefully it was some level of interesting. You know what? Let me say one last thing real quick before I end this off. I don't know if it's everybody being yes men, and I don't mean literally everybody, but like a few people, you know what I mean? A number of people would always say like I would me doing a podcast would be good, like it'd be interesting, entertaining, or whatever. And again, I don't know if they're being yes men or if I'm just like I don't know, like I feel like it's not because like I could listen to myself talk for fucking years, right? And I guess it was more of like because it's not like I would be talking about. Well, actually, no, it was in some cases because I have a in another server I had a whole philosophy thing that would go on, and someone mentioned a podcast there too. But I don't know, like I feel like there's something I'm missing. You know what I mean? Like I'm just not doing good enough, and that's not meant to be like a lack of confidence or putting myself down. But I genuinely think that there's improvement that could be made. I could talk clearer, have stuff that I want to talk about more neat, I guess, like more designed so that I don't jump into a rabbit hole and then forget where the hell I started. Um, Stuff like that. And see, this is a life lesson, right? Never like put yourself down, right? But do accurately analyze what you are doing. And it's kind of like we talk about that one day with pessimism. The reason people call realists pessimists is because generally people want to be on the more optimistic end of things, and the realistic side just happens to be under the optimistic side. Doesn't necessarily mean it's pessimistic, like pessimistic. It is more pessimistic than, what people want to think, the optimism side. But it's good to be realistic without putting yourself down. Don't let it don't let it bury you. Let it inspire you to become more, to become better. You know what I mean? You know what? That little spark right there, dude. I think that's what I need to do on the monologues. I can't sit here and just talk normally. I've gotta, cause in my head a lot of times I'll give like these bomb ass speeches, and what I need to do is that's it. I'm missing the passion. I'm not literally monotone, but I talk in kind of the same general tone, and I'll get progressively a little bit louder, but that's about it. But like in my head when I'm talking about this shit, or when I am talking about this stuff, where people were like, where a few people would be like, oh, your podcast would be cool. It was always because I was doing a more speech-like thing. Like I had that tone, I had that attitude, I had that passion, that fire, it was infectious. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just sitting here listening to a person drone on. It was you could feel it. You know what I mean? That's what I need to do. All right, I'll tell you what. Next time, we're nearing 30 minutes exact, but next time I have to do a solo one, it'll be fucking grand. At least in my head. I hope it will. If it's not, then whatever. But anyway, that's it for this time. Goodbye, y'all.